Thank you for staying with us. Let's now head back for more on the interview with outgoing U.S. Consul General, Mr. Jeffery Hawkins. And so your president will be in Africa in a few weeks, visiting his home country in Kenya. You think this new relationship between Nigeria and the U.S. will extend to the U.S. president ever coming to Nigeria before he eventually leaves office next year?
Well, I am hopeful that the invitation extended to President Buhari to come visit President Obama in Washington is a first step in that process. The plans aren't on the table right now, but it would be a logical place for the president to come, given the importance of Nigeria to our foreign policy.
So what is the U.S. foreign policy towards Nigeria?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a broad thing because it's an important country and the relationship's broad. But obviously, working on security, both from a Nigeria perspective but also on a regional perspective with the Nigerian government is really important to us. So that's one key element. Working on a range of economic issues, whether it's power. You know, we have this wonderful Power Africa initiative that's been led by President Obama, and Nigeria is one of the focus countries of that. Working together with Nigeria on common health issues, and our health engagement here is significant, over $500 million a year. Working with Nigeria on the Niger Delta, working with Nigeria on energy security issues. It's the whole gamut.
Well, the president has also reached out to you to help with tracing, missing funds believed to have been siphoned to foreign banks. How do you intend to support Nigeria in this regard?
Well, we're hopeful that there will be good cooperation in that law enforcement area. There are sort of specific legal ways for prosecutors and for law enforcement agencies to work together on those things. And as those Nigerian requests come in, we will consider them very carefully and work closely with our Nigerian partners on those issues.
Now, recently the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that all states in the U.S. Have to recognize same-sex marriages and relationships, and they have to accord, same-sex couples the same rights as heterosexual couples and so on. The U.S. has had issues with some countries in Africa, especially, which have not, given these sorts of rights, this recognition to same-sex couples. How do our relations go from here forth?
Well, that judgment is a very important judgment in the United States. It's generated a lot of attention, and I think reflects a very rapid and very dramatic transformation in the way our society deals with LGBT issues and the levels of acceptance that we have consensus around that that wasn't there even 20 or 30 years ago. So things have moved very quickly. And the Supreme Court, in its judgment, determined that, it can't be on a state-by-state basis. If heterosexual couples have the right to marry and to enjoy the benefits of marriage, then homosexual couples should have that as well. It is not our policy to impose same-sex marriage on other countries or to push other countries to do that, but we do believe that LGBT rights are human rights and vice versa. And so in Nigeria's law, and this is something I think you and I have maybe discussed in the past, in Nigeria's law, some of our concerns are around not the fact that same-sex marriage isn't legal, but the fact that talking about same-sex marriage becomes illegal under the act, or having an association engaged in promoting that issue is no longer legal. And for us, those free speech issues, freedom of association issues, are at odds with the Nigerian Constitution and don't serve Nigerian democracy well. And we're interested in both of those things, and so that was the issues that we had around that.
And will this courtesy be extended to other African countries, especially those who are, hard believers in the traditional, marriages and so on?
I don't think it was around same-sex marriage per se. It was around their treatment of the LGBT community and criminalizing, personal choice. which is not something that we support.
There are also some issues surrounding immigration. A lot of Nigerians are still interested in making, a home in the United States. Is there a limit to the number of people that, the U.S. can allow into the country? Not just for Nigeria, though, but for other countries seeking to make the U.S. a home.
Many Nigerians are familiar with the diversity visa program, which was the visa lottery, which then allows people to become green card holders and citizens. Nigeria has graduated from that program, and I use that word advisedly because it was designed to bring in underrepresented nationalities into our system. And the great news is Nigeria is not underrepresented in the United States anymore. There's a large, vibrant, and growing Nigerian American community in the U.S. And so that meant that we didn't need to promote immigration from Nigeria because that had taken root. There are a lot of different avenues towards green cards and citizenship in the United States. Marriage and family ties are probably the biggest one of those. And so as that Nigerian community comes, they'll start bringing spouses or their children or whatever. And there's absolutely no limit on that. There are also a few sort of employment-based ways to immigrate to the United States. And in some instances, there are some controls, not based on nationality, but based on the overall numbers of visas that we give worldwide. But the short answer is no, there's no limit on Nigerians coming to the United States.
And two of the Chibok girls who escaped Boko Haram insurgency in Borno State are, observing asylum in the U.S. and will most likely be there for a very long time. Do you also intend to, provide the same opportunities for others who may have also lost everything and are seeking a safe place?
Well, the international laws governing asylum are complicated, and that I think for the purposes of this discussion, it's a little difficult to get into, but we certainly support the Nigerian government's efforts and international efforts to provide the victims of the Boko Haram insurgencies, and perhaps also more specifically the Chibok girls, since they've become such an important symbol, and their suffering at the hands of Boko Haram was so great. It's important to sort of give those folks a helping hand.
Well, since we're still talking about Boko Haram, the U.S. did offer, to help find these girls. At a point, you did send in, military support, you had support staff and so on, and then you pulled back, saying that the Nigerian government was leading the campaign. So where are we now with support from the U.S.?
Well, there's never been a pullback in support from the United States for the fight against Boko Haram, and particularly after the Chibok girls were taken, there was a real push on the U.S. side, and we had a lot of folks come in to help with that effort and engagement across a wide number of areas. And that engagement continues to this day. We're really eager to help Nigeria combat Boko Haram, not just because we're nice guys, because we are, but beyond that, it's very much in our interest, in our national interest, to see extremist terrorist organizations like Boko Haram nipped in the bud. And we've seen in other countries what happens when you don't do that. And so Nigeria can count on our full support in that struggle. So
your tenure ends in a few weeks, and you'll be moving on to a new assignment in the Central African Republic and will soon become ambassador. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is it that you will remember most about Nigeria? What are your expectations as you move to a new country?
Well, look, I'm very excited about the new challenge, and I'm honored that President Obama has nominated me to be ambassador there, although I haven't been confirmed by the Senate, so it's not a done deal yet. Our system, and that's not a formality, our system requires that the President have the consent of the Senate to send ambassadors overseas. So that's great, and I'm looking forward to it, and I want to do it, and I'm excited by that prospect. But leaving Nigeria for me is very difficult. I have, in a relatively short time, put down some real roots here and have just the most remarkable set of acquaintances and friends and colleagues from across the most wide range of wide spectrum, and I count you among those people. And I'm going to have a hard time leaving those folks behind. But I'd also say that there are some posts in my experience, some countries that you serve in, you just sort of say, okay, fine, that was great, see you later. Nigeria's not going to be one of those places. I think I will keep in touch with a number of people that I've met here. I will watch Nigeria closely, and I do that because intellectually it's interesting to me, and I'm curious to see how all this plays out, particularly since I've had the honor to meet many of the main protagonists in the great Nigerian drama. But beyond that, I think personally for my own self-interest, Nigeria is clearly going to be a place that's important to the United States, important to the international community. And to the extent that somebody like me can say, oh yes, I'm a Nigeria expert or whatever, that's a valuable commodity. That's not true for every country around the world, but for a place like this, if you can say credibly that, yeah, I know something about that and I can offer some input or insights into that place, that's a marketable skill internationally. And so I very much hope to keep my hand in.
Thank you for joining us this week. See you again next time. I am Amarachi Ubani. Have a great week.